Last season we established our blackberry and raspberry plantings, and you can see the plants have grown quite vigorously in this first season, and they become very well established. Now raspberries and blackberries have an interesting life cycle. The root system and the crown lives for many years, and then from the crown, little buds that grow at the crown will produce new shoots or canes, and these canes only live for 2 years. Now in the first year we call our canes primocanes, and it's that time when they grow vegetatively and they reach their full height. In the second year we call the canes floricanes because they flower and produce fruit, and I have some old floricanes from last season with some unharvested fruits dried on. After they've finished fruiting, the canes die, and we come in and we'll remove those in the fall, typically in the fall after they've finished fruiting. Now that our plants are well established, we could begin training them. Now last season I tied all of the canes, which were primocanes, up to one side of the trellis. Over the winter, the primocanes from last season become floricanes for this coming season. And the reason I've tied them all onto one side is to make our maintenance easier. Remember, these are going to fruit and then they're going to die, and we're going to want to come in and remove them in the fall. But new shoots are going to emerge from the base of the plant this season, and I want to keep those separate from my flowering canes so that when I come in to remove them, it's easier to tell what to cut out and what to keep. So as those new shoots come up, I'm going to tie them over here on the opposite side of the trellis. Anybody who's grown raspberries or blackberries know that these plants can be pretty aggressive and they tend to spread, and they do this through one of two manners. One is through layering. Now layering is a technique that we use for purposeful plant propagation, but raspberry plants and blackberry plants often layer all by themselves, and what they do is a shoot from up in the ground, one of these canes that's growing up in the air, grows down into the ground, and where it enters the ground it starts to produce roots, and you can see there's some little buds growing off of here. They're going to produce some new canes from this new root growth. So pretty much we have a brand new plant right here. Eventually this stem connecting it to its mother plant would die out and we'd have another raspberry. Now you can imagine how these plants can just kind of grow their way across your bed if you don't keep good track of them. Another way the plants spread is through underground stems. And this is common with the red raspberries. We have these underground stems that send up new shoots, and this one I excavated from this plant here. And these new shoots, of course, will produce their own plant. And there's another one coming up here. And this way, the plants kind of spread out of where we want to keep them. So we often have to do a bit of thinning out and pruning just to keep our plants in place. And that's one of the struggles of managing raspberry plantings. To do this, we want to come in the winter time and thin back the number of shoots on our plants. And the goal for us is to have, with a red raspberry, we want to have about 6 to 8 plants per linear foot. So I like to use a measuring stick or some other form of measurement to identify the length on the ground. And just using a pruners, we're going to start cutting shoots back to ground level. And what we want to look for are those that are real spindly and thin, and we want to leave the larger canes because they're going to be more vigorous and produce more fruit. Now as I look at this plant, I also see a couple of shoots that are dead that we missed from last season. These fruited last year. They were floricanes last season, so we're going to go ahead and cut those out to start thinning. So as you go, just look for the canes that you think are going to be fairly weak, like this down here. And also look for those that are encroaching upon neighboring plants or growing out of the bed. Now with our blackberries and our black and purple raspberries, we're going to thin them a little differently because remember the shoots are all produced from the crown of the plant, so we have a more compact growth. And with these, we want to thin them so that we leave 3 to 5 of the strongest canes for producing fruit. Now in addition to thinning, blackberries and black and purple raspberries are pruned twice during the year. In the summertime we come in and we tip or cut the growing point of those canes. which forces lateral branches to emerge along the stem, as you can see here. Now these can be very long, and each of these little buds along that branch are going to produce a short shoot this summer which bears the fruit. Now if we allowed all the buds along these branches to produce fruit, we'd end up with a great number of very small fruits. So what we want to do is come in and tip back all of these lateral branches to a length of about 1 foot. And what we're going to be left with is fewer buds, but the branches on there are going to produce larger, better quality fruits. Now our red raspberries are pruned a little bit differently. We don't give them a summertime pruning because we don't want that lateral branching. Instead, they'll produce fruits from the buds, or from the shoots that emerge from these buds. In the winter time, we might tip them back to about chest height to keep our plants more manageable. When we make a cut, we want to cut just above a bud, like that. If we cut below the bud, what happens is we leave a piece of the cane which is very susceptible to disease. So again, you want to find the buds and make your cut just above that. Now when you're purchasing your raspberries, you're going to see that there's ever-bearing types and there's summer-bearing. Most of ours are summer-bearing, but we do have one cultivar here called Heritage, which is ever-bearing. And the name makes you think that they produce crop after crop of berries, but in fact, ever-bearing plants will produce a crop in the fall on their first season canes, or their prima canes, and then those same canes will produce a second crop the following summer. And that way you get berries throughout a longer period of time. However, because we have so many plants that bear in the summer, what I want to do is prune ours to be a fall-bearing plant. And to do this, we're just going to simply cut all of the existing shoots out. These had all produced fruit last season. You can see up here, there's some of the remaining fruits and flowers from last year. But if I left these on to produce another harvest for the summer, we're not going to get as much energy into our fall crop. So I'm going to cut these back and let our new canes produce a bigger fall crop so we have more berries for fall. Now all this material that we've cut out, we want to make sure that we get it off site. Canes that are dead can harbor diseases as well as insect pests like the red-headed cane borer. And we don't want to leave this material on site. We don't want to compost it or allow it to decompose in our yards. Instead, you can either burn it or send it out off-site in the garbage.